So the graduations hang on the wall, but they never really helped us at all. No, they never taught us what was real. Iron and coke, chromium steel, and we're waiting here in Allentown. But they've taken all the coal from the ground, and the union people crawled away. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter. We're closing out winter, and we're coming fast into spring because that's just how we do things around here. We're bringing life to what once was dead.
There is a touch of spring in the air.
There is. It's going to get springier from what I hear.
I would assume so. I
Yes.
mean, as springier as it gets.
Yeah.
Springier as it gets?
Yes.
March is one of my favorite months that we're coming up on. It's
Yeah.
just, I don't know why. Maybe it's just that first signs of life. What I love. What I love about spring
Yes.
is first time I go outside and hear a lawnmower going. First time I smell a barbecue.
Yes.
The first time I can hear birds.
That first cast into the lake.
Yeah.
The sound of the lure hitting the water. Oh.
A beauty is coming.
Yes.
But I know opening fishing's not for a while, but
Right.
it is. I mean, I will say this: the Twins play the Pirates tomorrow to start spring training. So I mean, it is spring, and I will be there in a few weeks. So I mean, spring is coming.
Can't argue with that.
Now, can you believe? First of all, why is baseball starting like March 27th now?
I don't know.
I mean, it's way too early. The season's long enough.
It is long enough.
Okay, and you know what a baseball historian I am. I don't know how much a fan of today's product I am, but I mean, to start the season, you can't play good baseball when it's 31 degrees outside.
Oh, no.
It's just impossible. I don't like it. I don't like it starting so soon. But anyhow, Jay, no idea who sings that, but I could take a guess.
Yes?
I already forgot the song, but it's something about shoveling coal.
Glad you were listening.
Something about shoveling coal. Kind of reminds me of that Tom Cruise movie. All the Right Moves, is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Don't you remember that, where he was a football player and the coach was there, the guy from the show The Coach?
I saw that one.
From Poltergeist.
Coach.
I can't think of his name.
Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Should I know this singer?
Yeah.
I should know this singer?
Yes, you should know this song.
So it's somebody big like
not big like Meatloaf, but
yeah. Pavarotti. It's not Pavarotti.
Right.
Or Flamingo or whatever their names are.
Somebody smaller in stature, yes.
What was it again? I forgot. What was the song?
You got to pay attention.
Well, I was paying attention. You said you shoveled coal and there's no end to it or something.
You want the lyrics one more time?
No, I want the song title.
Well, that's what you're trying to get.
No, I'm trying to get the artist. Title. Well, I mean, I never get the song title.
That's not true.
Well, there was that one time.
Oh, this is pretty easy.
Every time you say that, I feel like a total moron.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that to you.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Jay, don't lie to the audience here.
So the graduations hang on the wall, but they have never really helped us at all. No, they never taught us what was real, iron and coke, chromium steel, and we're waiting here in Allentown. But they've taken all the coal from the ground, and the union people crawled away.
I don't know what's escaping me.
Billy Joel.
That's
Allentown.
Billy Joel?
Yeah. Yeah. We're waiting here in Allentown. No?
No.
That's a good song. I like that one.
I can even name like 4 Billy Joel songs.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's a good song.
Hold on.
You'll have to look.
I've named Billy Joel songs in the show before.
Yeah.
Piano Man. Mm-hmm. We Started the Fire.
Oh, I hate that song.
Yeah, but that's still him.
Yes, that is still him.
You may be right.
There's
3.
Wow, I'm always right.
Yeah. Well, I was saying that was rhetoric.
Right.
I can maybe think of a 4th if I can think.
Big Shot.
That's him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving Out. Anthony's song.
Moving Out?
Yeah.
I'm moving out.
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
See, that's not fair because sometimes I know the song, I don't know the singer.
Right.
So that's just not fair. To me, that's I get partial credit.
Yeah, I gave you the title and I gave you the artist.
Yeah,
How do you get any credit?
We're grading on a curve.
We're grading on a Robbinsdale curve, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I get that Minneapolis one in here. I'm 100%. I'm getting the name. I'm the valedictorian of guessing songs.
Oh,
now, Jay, I got to say something.
Yes.
This is kind of a disgusting story, but
Okay.
I forgot to put, once in a while in the morning, I forget to do one or two things before I head to the office.
Yes.
The other day, I forgot to put deodorant on. Stick with me on this, okay? So I get to work.
Yes.
And I have a hoodie on and a shirt. I mean, but I can still, I'm uncomfortable because I can feel the, how do I put this delicately?
You can feel the BTUs emanating from your armpits. Yes.
I just thought of the Smell That Smell song. That's all I can think of. Don't tell me Leonard Skinner. Yeah. So anyway, I confided to one of my coworkers that I was emitting certain odors.
Yeah.
He happened to have some deodorant in his locker or something.
Yeah.
So I put some on, used somebody else's deodorant. Okay, now just stick with me.
Oh.
And I shouldn't have done it. I should have just stunk. Because I'm going to tell you something. I am definitely, I think, allergic to Speed Stick deodorant.
Yeah.
I immediately break out. I immediately itch like crazy. I immediately have a crater face Coburn on my armpit.
Oh, no.
And my question to you, I didn't reek, okay, but I was scratching myself for 2 days. Not the way a baseball player does
Right.
either. Is there anything you are allergic to very deathly?
Very deathly.
I mean, not deathly, but something where, oh, God, you see it, you can't go near it. Like, I got some friends who, like, they get stung by a bee. Okay, I'm dialing 911.
That's not me. No. I think some of those deodorants, they leave me, breaking out into a rash.
There's
definitely.
an aftershave that used to do that to me, too, and
Really?
I can't think of, I don't use a razor much anymore. And
Brute 33, is that?
I don't know, something. If he was,
Yeah, I don't know that. Although I'm kind of allergic to my own sweat too. Like I break out in rashes.
Hives, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Really? So you're not really, there's not a food you're really allergic to or anything like that?
No, I've built up a tolerance by eating things that I shouldn't eat.
So that's just garbage in, garbage out.
Right. It's like, it's been sitting in the fridge for a week. What?
Yeah. You're going to drink your milk or chew it?
That's where I draw the line.
Yeah. No lumpy.
No solids.
Lumpy mashed
in my
potatoes are one thing.
Yeah.
Lumpy milk is something different. I don't know. I was struck by, I could put it on once. And then I'm sure, I can raise my hand because I'm sure.
No.
I should have stung. I should have just stunk. I should have went on my lunch break and just, there's a Target not far from me. I should have just got my flaky white stuff. I always remember the Charles Barkley commercial, the flaky white stuff. And so that's the only thing I can have. I can't have that green looking or teal looking Speed Stick. And just, oh God, I don't know what's in it. What's in it, but I cannot put it. I can't put it anywhere near me. And there are certain aftershaves that do that too. So I don't know. I used to break out of my neck. I remember I'd break out. Maybe I put it on too fast or something. I don't know, but too much.
I don't know.
But awful. Anyway, Jay, enough of my disgusting stories. George Washington's birthday is today, and he'd be, 288 years old?
Something like that.
So, he's not around anymore. But I got to thinking, it is President's Day month here. I mean, and it other than being the first president of the United States, I am embarrassed how little people know of George Washington, the person.
Absolutely.
It just, or Jefferson or Adams or Hamilton or Paul Revere, the Revolutionary War. Well,
I see. You're just talking about that era. You're not talking about,
I'm not comparing him to Washington. I'm just saying Thomas Paine and people like that.
Yep.
I shake my head at how ignorant people are of the revolution. Why is that, Jay? I mean, I've been thinking about it all day. What is the reason that, like, if I said, name a battle in the Revolutionary War, name the years that it happened, okay?
Yeah.
Name where the war ended,
Right.
At Yorktown. Name, where did the war start? Name a general other than Washington.
Yeah. Shot heard around the world. Where did that happen?
Lexington Green. I mean,
Yeah.
you know how many Americans don't even know that we were a British colony?
That scares me. Yeah.
I mean, why we speak English for a reason. I mean, but what happened to where? It's funny because I remember being in school and I remember learning all about. I didn't learn much after elementary or junior high, but I did retain a lot of it. And I just wonder if I gave a quiz to an average American of any age,
Yeah.
what they could say about President Washington or anybody in that era, or the War of 1812,
Yeah.
or anything like that. I mean, what's happened to where that has gone on the back burner? And nobody knows anything about Washington other than that he was the first president.
I think it happened a long time ago, though. It started to happen a long time ago. I mean, most of what I know of the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and the Spanish-American War, it's things that I've read, since being in school. It's because I've had a love for history and I've sought those books out, and I made it a priority to learn.
I get that, but I mean, what is it with not? I can't grasp how somebody could spend K through 12 and know next to nothing about our country's founding.
Right.
Forget whether I agree or disagree with them on politics. That's not what I mean by that.
Right.
I mean, how can you not know?
Because you get one class in 10th grade that lasts half of the year.
Yeah,
and that's,
whatever
and that's all you get. I mean, how are you expected to retain that when you get a half a year's worth of American history?
Well, I suppose that's true. I just wonder, and I'm like you. I mean, when I was a kid, I was reading this stuff on my own. I was in high school. I was reading this stuff on my own because I was intrigued by it. And George Washington was so much. There's so many lessons to be learned by President Washington, not just while he was president, but after, before. He lived by these civility rules.
Yes.
And he had a really bad temper, and it was his way. Instead of taking some Zoloft or something, he learned how to control his. He was very dignified. He had a lot of insecurities. His teeth mainly were an insecurity for him, and just the precedents that he made as president of the United States. I mean, do you know that in the presidential oath? Okay, Donald Trump took the same oath George Washington took. Okay, except for the very end.
Yes.
That so help me God.
He added it. Yeah.
Is something he said at the end and kissed the Bible.
Yeah.
I mean, just a total anecdote.
Right.
And he, after getting inaugurated, he walked into the Senate chamber and gave a 20-minute speech. It was later dubbed an inaugural address, but Washington never called it that.
Right.
The two-term tradition. And, there's so many things. His use of the veto and how he explained why he would veto something. Said he would veto anything he considered unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And that was his standard. He wouldn't sway Congress. He let Congress be a separate branch of government. I mean, I'm just fascinated by it. Even when he tried to retire, they wouldn't let him retire.
I know.
When we had the XYZ thing in France, they tried to coax him out of retirement. And I hate to say this too, the circumstances of his death are a very big mystery as to what happened to him, because in those days he was at Mount Vernon which was his estate or what do you want to call it, and he had a very bad sore throat, and physicians came in and basically bled him to death.
Yeah.
They thought they didn't know about viruses and germs.
No, he had the coronavirus. I heard.
The N1H1,
Yes.
whatever. I don't know what he had, but yeah, he didn't live that much longer after being president.
Yeah.
He lived like another 3 years or something. But
Yeah.
just I don't know. I find him a fascinating person, and it's just sad that I don't know. Nobody seems. I mean, I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is our founding fathers are now seen as bad guys in a way. Like they're seen as, the people who brought slavery here, the people who legalized it, the people who didn't care about women, the people who didn't.
That's not true.
Of course, it's not true. But
It's not true. I mean, the whole world had slavery, and we were one of the first ones to get rid of it. Forget about Mexico. We'll get rid of it in 100 years. That's not getting rid of slavery.
Well, the British didn't get rid of it
No.
until they ended up. The only reason they got rid of it is got kicked out of all the colonies where they had slaves.
Yeah, but even with
In fact, the Constitution outlawed the slave trade. It put a sunset date.
It did.
On international slave trade. There was some smuggling, but there was.
And that's where people get it wrong with, they considered, slave
3/5.
3/5. But no, that was so that they couldn't amass enough power in the South to make slavery a permanent fixture in the United States. That was,
and it would give it in the South a disproportionate electoral vote and representatives.
Absolutely.
And it was part of the Virginia Compromise.
and people don't know this stuff. But like with George Washington, I mean, just even looking at that and his rules for civility, it's like a foreign land, when you read through those things, because we don't do those things anymore.
Think of Washington at Twitter. I would
like in his rules of civility, if you're a man, you sit with your feet flat on the floor, or at worst, you cross your ankles. And I just see
crossing my ankles right now.
So am I. Mine are crossed at the ankles, and because I've read that, but I was never like a big leg crosser. I mean, once in a while I would put like my ankle over my knee, but I could never sit like these guys that sit like women. And his rules for civility would always come back to me, or always still come back to me when I see guys that cross their legs like that. It's like, that's how women cross their legs. Now, come on, read George Washington's rules for civility. Put them flat on the floor, cross them at the ankle. If you're walking with a woman, walk in between her and the street.
Yes.
We don't do these things anymore, and I think because of that, there's been a breakdown in our character as well, and we don't treat each other civilly, partially because we don't follow those rules.
You got a couple things: breakdown of civility, and I think breakdown of faith.
Yes,
Faith and family, I think, have broken down so much that. I don't know if we've reached a point of no return or not, but I just want everybody to do some homework on George Washington. Just go read something, anything. I don't care if it's Wikipedia. Just, immerse yourself in his service. That when he served in the Army and served as president. Okay, now that lasted 22 years from the Revolution till the end of his presidency. He never took a dime in payment. He only took expenses.
But he should have taken, because he had so much debt.
He lived. He inherited some stuff from his older brother, but he also, people were land rich back then.
Right.
Not, Thomas Jefferson had the same problem at Monticello.
And that's why they couldn't get rid of their slaves. They were handed down through their families, and because of the debt that they had
to work the land. Is the only way they could stay above water. And, so Washington technically was wealthy, and the Custis family was too, Martha's family. But ultimately the money was, it's kind of like having all your wealth tied up in your house or in your 401k, which you can take in 15 years. That's kind of
now
what
we
it
would
was
call
like.
that land poor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You couldn't eat, but you had a lot of land.
Right.
So I just hope people take the time on his birthday, President's Day month. I know it's Black History Month too, and people should be studying some of our great civil rights leaders as well.
Even back in the Revolutionary War, Crispus Attucks, and
and I would go. I would study people. Frederick Douglass, I think, is somebody to
Absolutely.
study who isn't studied enough. George Washington Carver is another one that I think does not get. And I would say some great black athletes that came along before Joe Louis, Jack Johnson, even before Jackie Robinson, who, broke so many barriers. But, to me, I just hope people reflect a little bit on this month. Both presidents and black folks who fought even before, the common era of the 50s and 60s that we all so much know about now. So, little history thought. I bet a lot of our listeners learned something right there that they didn't learn in public schools.
Yeah.
And as we jump to our subject right now, there may be reasons they didn't learn things.
Well, that's true.
Jay, I'm going to say this straight out. I am the son and the grandson of a Teamster.
Mm-hmm.
I have a healthy respect, I think, and an objective one for what unions used to represent in this nation. Used to. Mm-hmm. And maybe a trade union still does today. And maybe that's a lot different than what we're going to talk about here. But the power that unions have over our schools is mind-numbing to we're just going to scratch the surface of it today.
Yes.
Okay, because this affects everything. Because your local school district has one. So much that the state capitol is influenced by them.
Uh-huh.
So many legislators are, quite frankly, in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And you can phrase it how you want to. But the power of one group in this state, Education Minnesota, and their enemies list, which you and I might make after this show.
That's true.
And I would consider it an honor. It doesn't bother me. Okay. Where do we even start here with who?
Well, I guess we need to give a little introduction.
Yeah, you introduced it.
Me introduced it?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Education Minnesota. It's part of the National Education Association, which is the national union for educators, and it is
for public educators.
Public educators, right? Not for private. But
those nuns over at St. Mary's School for Boys, they're not part of it.
Well, that's true. So that is the major
80,000 members. 80,000. Wow.
That's a lot.
Now, there used to be two ones in this state. The Minnesota Education Association, the Minnesota Federation of Teachers.
Yes.
And they merged to become one back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So there used to be one or two, and I don't know why there were two.
Right.
I don't know if one was in the cities, one was rural, one was a little less radical. I don't know what it was, but they all came. 80,000. Now, does that include like the is that just teachers, just licensed staff, or is that there's education assistants, there's counselors?
Yeah, it includes all that. Education support professionals, faculty at several university campuses, community and technical colleges, college students preparing for an education career, retired educators who have devoted their lives to students. There are a lot of members, and it's not just people who teach K through 12.
Substitute teachers, I would assume they're members too.
Yeah.
Wow. 80,000.
Yeah.
That's a
substitute teachers, maybe not so much. You don't necessarily have to. Once you teach at a school and you're under contract, that's more where you would be in the union, or if you had been in the union, you retire and you're still like working with the schools somehow. You might.
Now, Jay, let me ask you a question. You taught for a year.
I taught a couple of years, yeah.
Were you a member of a union?
I think I opted out.
Now, how did you opt out, though?
I think I just declined to be a part of it.
Well, can you? I mean, I didn't know you could.
Yeah, you can absolutely opt out. Yeah.
So what does that mean? Did you negotiate your own salary? Did you?
Not really. No.
Because I know what union members.
Making,
okay, but union members would say, "Hey, look, we're the ones that got you this wage."
Right.
Whether that's true or not, who knows? I'm sure you were getting paid, $24,500 a year. Mm-hmm. So I mean, how do you get the money and not join the union?
Well, I don't think you get exactly the same money.
Oh, okay.
It's
so the union dues maybe are the only.
Right.
But I mean, I think the thing that really is eye popping is the amount of money that they spend influencing elections.
Yes,
I mean that really is. Eye-popping. In 2018, for example, Education Minnesota's PAC, because they have a PAC, okay, and that's a political action committee, and I foolishly don't know the laws completely on a PAC and what is separate from that, what a candidate can do and what a candidate can't, but they raised $2.7 million. And spent $2 million of it on the 2018 elections here in Minnesota. It's $2 million. I mean, just think. Wow. We have, remember, the Senate wasn't up, okay? We had the constitutional offices, and we had the 134 legislative seats.
Yes.
Now, I'm assuming they spent the most on the closest races. But if you just spent the $2 million on the legislative races, do you know what that is per race? You do some math on the fly?
I can't do any math on
$14,925.
Wow.
Now, obviously, they spent some on the governor's race, I'm sure, and
local stuff as well,
levies and that kind of thing. But that's how much money we're talking. In fact, only the Alliance for a Better Minnesota spent more in 2018 as a PAC than they did. So and I wonder where are they getting that money? I mean, it's coming from union members for the most part.
Exactly.
So Education Minnesota's got their organization. Then they have their PAC, which they appoint people. They have 33 people that are running this PAC. 33 just the best looking people too. I'll tell you, when you look at that page, the best looking ones are the ones that don't have a picture. So I mean, it's
wow.
Yeah. No, they just look like depressed. They look like they ride the bus every day. So but I mean, this organization has a tremendous amount of influence over anything having to do with your kids. I mean, anything from what they study to, how performance is evaluated to, you name it, they've got their fingers in it. And other issues that have nothing to do with education, too, they have an influence on. And, of course, like all good lobbying groups, Jay, they've got their 20. Like we gave our 2020 agenda. Remember that? We gave our 2020 agenda a few weeks ago on what we wanted to see here. And
yes.
Well, they've got theirs, too.
Oh, I bet they do.
And we should mention all the local affiliates, like the Robbinsdale Federation of Teachers. I mean, they get their marching orders.
Yes.
From Education Minnesota. The two things, are married at the hip. But what is Education Minnesota, Jay? What do they want to do?
If I were to guess, let me put my guessing hat on.
You can go to educationminnesota.org, by the way, at the legislature and follow what we're saying.
Yes. Being a school and all, or, they're not a school, but, representing the schools.
It's all about the children. Yeah, it's all about the children.
Higher graduation rates.
I don't see that on here.
Oh.
I've been looking for that all day.
Higher scores in math, reading, and science.
No, the tests are racist.
Free housing for every student.
Yeah, they allude to that.
Oh, boy.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner? No. Free clothes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, that's in there, huh?
Not exactly,
Oh,
but
okay.
there's some things here that. Okay, first off is this mantra, and they have a whole page on talking points. You know,
I bet they do.
You know, things that you hear the same thing regurgitated. It's not an accident.
Right.
Okay, this is all mapped out. But this fully funding of public schools, this mantra that you keep hearing,
Right.
Minnesota's share, being the state government, of funding for public school district hasn't kept up with inflation. Yeah, well, what has?
Right.
Okay. It is now 12.7%. Where do they get this from? I don't know. 12.7% less than 2003 in real dollars. Well, if that's the case, I should be making 150 grand a year at my job.
Right.
It's time for Minnesota to fully fund public education, blah, 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 blah. And that means the state over the next 2 years needs to invest. I love how it's always invest. $4.3 billion more to help our students succeed. Now, more money has never equaled better results. You know, all it gives us is more union members.
Yeah.
But I want to go through a few things that they're fighting, because Education Minnesota, they're fighting for these things.
Yes, they are.
Okay? Ensuring all education support professionals. Who are they? ESP. I've never heard.
I've never heard of that either.
I don't know. They all have. They all can tell the future. They're all either ESPs. Earn a living wage of at least $15 an hour. Who working for the government is out there making $8.75?
That's true.
I mean, the government pays better than anybody.
Yeah.
So once again, what's the key term? Living wage. Again, we're adopting some things that we've heard before.
Right.
Listen to this. Attract, and I see this everywhere too, and retain teachers of color. Now, Jay, let me ask you a question. If you wanted to attract and retain teachers of color, what would you do to do that?
That's a good question.
Because they have their ways of doing it. And I'm just kind of curious.
I guess, just by being a good place to work. I mean, people wanting to come and work.
Okay.
For
True.
you. That's how you retain anybody. Treat your teachers well and don't let the inmates rule the asylum, and it's
all true.
Yes.
But how do you get people of color to go there? Now, cart before the horse.
right.
How many minority kids in Minneapolis and St. Paul don't get a high school diploma?
Hard to say.
A lot.
Yes.
How are they going to become teachers if that doesn't happen?
Right.
Don't you have to, don't they need to get a diploma first? Go to college second?
Yeah.
Want to become a teacher? Study to become one?
Yep.
So there's only so many out there. What do you go? Either A, you have to dumb down the licensing procedure, and just say, okay, well, we're just going to, by dumb it down, I don't mean people are stupid. I mean, change the requirements for that. Or you're going to have to set a long-term goal that starts with people getting their diploma and going to college. It's not going to happen any other way. You can't go out there and say, there's only X amount of minority teachers. They all can't be everywhere.
Right.
So, but listen how Education Minnesota wants to do it. First, by increasing starting salaries.
Okay.
So that's going to attract minority teachers. Notice they don't say good teachers either. I mean, keep this in mind. And creating a loan forgiveness program. So we take out a loan, we write a contract, and we break it.
Yes.
Okay. Mentoring and other programs to support educators on the job. That's how they're going to attract and retain minority teachers.
Well, then I don't know, because that wouldn't attract and retain me.
No.
So,
And of course, they're going after the soccer moms here.
mm-hmm.
I can just see them now sweating in their minivans, lowering class size so teachers can give students more individual attention. Provide, and here's another one. I mean, you talk about just padding the roles of the employment. Providing additional resources for schools to hire more student support staff, including counselors, social workers, psychologists, nurses, mental health services, trauma-informed practices. I mean, somebody tell me how doing that gives students a better outcome.
Doesn't.
Yeah, you had a nurse. How about you go to a nurse when you get home?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, somebody gets hurt on the playground or something. That's one thing. But I mean, are we to the point now where the schools are the doctors now?
Well, they're trying to be everything. You know?
Grief counselors.
Yes.
I mean, come on. I mean, Jay, you're gonna love this one.
Okay.
Because there is the E word and the S word.
Oh boy.
Actually, I'm gonna read another one first.
Okay.
Here's where they endorse single-payer health care.
Ooh.
Helping educators, not students,
Right.
get quality, affordable health care through innovative cost-sharing initiatives and allowing any Minnesotan to take advantage of any affordable public option. And what's a public option? There's one.
Right.
Yeah.
Single pair.
Yeah. Now here's the E word. Now you know the E word and the S word.
Yes.
And the S word is not 4 letters. Creating, God, I can't even. Do we have Joe Souchery's foghorn here? I just know if I can reach for this. Creating an equitable and
Yes. Sustainable.
I can't even say it. I'd rather say the other word. Sustainable. Oh, God, gee. Funding stream for teacher development and evaluation law. So, I mean, and by the way, ESPs need a professional Bill of Rights.
What?
Yes, absolutely. Pay and benefits to sustain fail. I said it again. They need $15 an hour. They need high-quality, affordable public health care, 12 weeks of family leave. And they have to protect workers from, quote, wage theft. That means enforcing Minnesota law and crack down on employers who circumvent wage and benefit standards that don't pay overtime. What? They need a safe work environment. Teacher licensing. They have some, because of course they don't want anybody in from the outside. But again, did I see anything in there about student performance?
No.
Teacher evaluations?
Nope.
School choice?
Still no.
I mean, just a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
Bunch of why don't we, you know what, Education Minnesota, you could have a one line wish list. Actually, a 2-word wish list. This has got to be a song. Has to be a song.
Yes.
7 letters.
Okay.
Mo money. Is that a song? Can I write that? Can you write that? Mo money?
Yeah, maybe I can come up with that.
Education Minnesota. Mo money. What do we want this year? Mo money. What do we want next year? Mo money. There's a rock song there. I mean, we could
might be.
We could be as big as as I don't know, Static X or somebody. I mean,
Static X.
I don't know who they are. Who are they? Are that real?
Yeah, that's a real.
Oh, that's a real. I totally didn't know that. Yeah. So I mean, who are they? Who are they? Are they really real?
Yeah, they're real.
We could be as big as I don't know. I don't know any rock bands anymore. Who sings today?
Be as big as Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap, Justin Bieber. I mean, who else sings today? I don't know who sings today.
The Foo
New
Fighters.
Kids on the Block.
No, I think think, who knows?
That's a different era, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, more money. Basically, your choices are to either you hate kids, hate everything, unless you're willing to pay whatever they think, and what they need, they'll need a whole new laundry list next time. So, I mean, but like I said, I mean, 80,000 members, and Jay, the influence not only that they have over elections. Okay, but nationally,
yes,
these unions have a lot of influence. They have influence, and if they complain about federal funding, yet they're all over the Washington for more of this, more of that. They'll take whatever comes.
Oh yeah,
but they have toolkits on their website about. Let me see here. Where the hell was it? By the way, we're at educationminnesota.org. The resources page. Oh, MN Votes. That's EdMN Votes. Okay, this is where you see a lot. This is where you see the Political Action Committee. This is where they have a whole toolkit to help your local election, to help your mainly a levy, but it's not limited to that. They certainly don't say that here. A whole precinct caucus toolkit with sample resolutions and so on and so forth. I mean, just powerful stuff here. And Jay, they're in with all these other unions as well. Like they all share data to push levies, to push certain candidates across. Like I say, their PAC spent over $2 million in the last election. I mean, these people are everywhere. I mean, if you're not in bed with them, then you're their enemy.
Yes.
And they got an enemies list.
They do.
And I know you're on it now. If you weren't on it before, but who do we have on the enemies list? Now, I have not seen groups. The only one I can think of is the Southern Poverty Law Center that has got just blanket examples of, an enemies list. This is not an enemies list. This is an enemies warehouse that they've got.
Well, and that's what's interesting about this is that, they name groups. I mean, they name names of people or groups that they think are a threat. Call them groups to watch.
A threat.
Yes. They name the State Policy Network, which is a web of so-called think tanks that push a right-wing agenda in every state across the country, all while reporting little or no lobbying activities. So obviously they're terrible. Center of the American Experiment, which we've heard of.
Yes, we have. Watch the mic there.
Yes. All right. So Center for the American Experiment disguises itself as a think tank, but is really the Minnesota organization is pushing the agenda of its right-wing corporate donors. So they're speaking really highly of these groups.
I can imagine.
Yes. The Freedom Foundation of Minnesota. The Freedom Foundation bills itself as a free market think tank that supports limited government, but is a member of the State Policy Network and pushes much of the ALEC-backed corporate agenda. It was started by longtime conservative activist Annette Meeks in 2007.
I know Annette Meeks.
Yes.
She's harmless.
Yes.
Nice lady. But I mean, I hate her.
Americans for Prosperity.
Now, I am partial. I used to work for that. Okay?
Well, you belong on the list.
I guess I'm already on the list as a former employee.
Americans for Prosperity is a right-wing political advocacy group founded by billionaire brothers David and Charles Koch, the owners of Koch Industries.
Yeah, the ones that are out there giving money to Democrats right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And you know what's funny is when I worked for Americans for Prosperity, I don't recall education being a big thing that they talked about. It was mostly taxes. It was mostly spending. It was mostly, issues like that. I don't remember, freedom issues. I know Sunday liquor sales was something that they were an influence on, but I don't recall an anti-union. I don't ever remember a conversation the entire time I worked there about that. You'd think I would know, having worked for them.
Right.
Somebody's feeding them this crap, obviously. So.
Yeah, well, this is what they're coming up with, and these are groups to watch out for because they're dangerous, apparently. The Laura and John Arnold Foundation.
Who the hell are they?
The Arnold Foundation is spending millions of dollars a year to end defined benefit pensions for public employees and privatize our public schools across the nation.
Well, then they're friends of mine.
Yeah. And of course, they call him out. Former Enron executive and hedge fund manager John Arnold. Really? Oh, boy.
Could never live that down.
Right. So now on their side of the ledger, let's see. The National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. They're calling them out. They don't like right to work.
I get that.
So, yeah.
You don't want individuals to have any power.
No. The National Right to Work Committee. The Partnership for Educational Justice. Partnership for Educational Justice was started by former journalist turned school privatization activist Campbell Brown.
A journalist that broke free of the box they're normally kept in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So they have another group called So-Called Union Alternatives. So again, speaking super highly of these folks.
Yeah, aren't those the people who are pro-union but reject the left-wing ideology behind it or something? Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, they take on aspects of unions, but they're more like the type of union that you and I would be pleased with.
Oh, okay.
Looking at the Association of American Educators, it was established in 1994. It doesn't represent teachers in collective bargaining and claims to be free of any political agendas or political activism. Well, that automatically makes them bad, right?
Huh.
Provides members with liability insurance, legal counsel in the workplace, employment issues, and teacher scholarships and grants.
Well, that's just terrible. I mean, teacher scholarships. I mean, who wants that?
Yeah. We really need to watch out for this group, Christian Educators Association International.
Absolutely. Those damn Christians. They're always get involved in this.
I don't even know. So, yeah. Despite its name, 95% of its members are public school educators. And now has about 6,500 members.
Well, could they be public school teachers and Christians at the same time?
Yes, I believe that's possible.
Because, I mean, they're basically saying by making that statement that those educators aren't Christians.
Right.
Maybe they are. So they all formed a faith-based union or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, a group like this, of course they're attacking them because of, they don't do everything a union does, and they can take a shot at this group because they don't believe politically the same thing that a union would, and they put quotations around the group's mission, which is to proclaim God's word as the source of wisdom and knowledge, and preserving, quote, our Judeo-Christian heritage and values through education, end quote, and, quote, the legal rights of Christians in public schools, end quote. They don't like that. So,
those Christians.
And National Association of Professional Educators, they don't like, and they don't like the Coalition of Independent Education Associations.
Well, again, you hear independent.
Well, yeah, you can't be independent.
No.
You can't be having that.
And I'll tell you what, one of my favorite parts here is the staff and student safety.
Yes.
Guess what their ideas are to improve student safety? Now, I have mine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it would start with not making schools gun-free zones. There's my first one.
Okay.
What do you got? What else would help?
Oh,
Am I putting you on the spot again?
kind of. I think that they should allow teachers to carry under certain circumstances.
Hey, your Second Amendment rights don't end when you walk into
Yep.
a school.
Absolutely.
It's your option.
At the very least, they should have armed guards on the campus.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
A school's a sitting duck.
Yeah.
Okay? If I'm a criminal, I know where the gun-free zones are.
Absolutely.
I can go there with a gun, and it's how long before the police can get there? Okay, let's say
Yeah.
it's 5 minutes. How many people can you kill in 5 minutes? A lot.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, but here is education, edumacations,
Yes.
educations, Minnesota's. Here's their stuff. Have one counselor, social worker, psychologist, or similar support staff for every 250 students.
Wow.
Minnesota's current ratio is 723 to 1. Create enforceable caps on class size for every grade. That's gonna stop a school shooting. Okay. Teach every educator about restorative practices, a successful strategy for reducing in-school violence and racial disparities in school discipline. So we're back to that.
Right.
We're back to, doesn't matter what crime's committed, it matters who does it.
Right.
What color are they? Are they bipolar?
Mm-hmm.
Are they, did they forget to take their Prozac this morning? Are they hallucinating? No, I mean, racial disparities. Very few of these school shooters have been minorities.
Yeah.
I can hardly think of any. So, what would racial disparities in discipline have to do with school safety?
Yeah, nothing.
I mean, it's just all this is that they're using it as a jobs program.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Provide a full-service community school in every district. What? The hell is that?
A full service? Is that different than a self-service school? It's like
Pump your own gas. every school.
learn your own math.
Every school that requests a trained and certified school resource officer should get one. That's their plan for student safety. I mean, I'm just sort of baffled at that. It's kind of like having a big dog in your front yard, Jay. I mean, the dog might be the nicest dog in the world, but that intimidates somebody. Mm-hmm. Same thing with having, somebody maybe having an armed guard there.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about a little old grandma.
Right.
I want somebody who looks like Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, that's what I want. Talk about a deterrent.
Yes.
I bet that would be one in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I mean, teachers should have that freedom, that option. They don't have to do it if they don't want to.
Yeah.
But they should have the option. I mean, they shouldn't be defenseless.
Yes.
That's what they are. They're defenseless.
Yeah.
And how many teachers, too? If they did something, what if they thought they saw a weapon and accused somebody or physically assaulted somebody? What would happen to that teacher? They get run out on the rails.
Yes, they would.
So they're in a lose-lose here when it comes to this. But, now's the time
Yes.
where candidates are coming.
Mm-hmm.
Education minister. Now, and I want to talk a little bit about how they spend this $2 million. And I think it's a great lesson for our viewing audience because while it's true that, how does this $2 million get spent? They can't give the money to a candidate.
No, they're not.
Okay, there's a
allowed.
legal limit as to what they can do. So how was this money spent? What do they do with it? How do they spend it on behalf of the candidate? And of course, the candidate, has no knowledge that this is happening.
Right.
Nod, nod, wink, wink. They don't know anything. They're totally
Right.
kept out of the loop.
Yeah.
So how does that happen, Jay? Where does that money go?
Poof.
It does go poof.
I think it probably got cycled through Pravat Bank along with the Burisma holdings. It's gone forever. Kolomoisky pocketed it, and that's the end of it.
No, no. But how is it spent in a campaign, Jay? I mean, it's spent with lit pieces
Yes.
that do not directly endorse somebody but may trash somebody else. It's spent with volunteers, doing door knocking for you, lit dropping for you, sign placing for you. I mean, it's 80,000 people. They got a small army that they can dispatch. Are there 80,000 National Guard members in the state of Minnesota? I mean, if Education Minnesota wanted to invade somewhere, does the governor have enough troops to? Of course, Walz would let him do it.
Right.
But I mean, do they have enough troops to stop it? They might not. 80,000 might overwhelm them. It might be like the Alamo.
Wow. Yeah, I don't get it.
I also want you to know, if you want to go lobby, if you're an Education Minnesota member and you want to go lobby at the legislature, you don't have to take the day off work. No. They'll provide a substitute. They will reimburse your mileage. They will provide you a meal. They will reimburse you for a hotel room. And statewide affiliates will get reimbursed $300 for anybody who wants to come down and lobby in front of the legislature. Now, that's no different than bussing in, people to a rally or offering free pizza to get people to come.
Yeah.
It's coercion.
Well, they're allowed to do it, so they do.
I still want the detail on the group and the PAC. That's what I'm still interested in. How they can endorse a candidate and then create a PAC to support that candidate and claim that the candidate they endorsed has nothing to do with it. I mean, obviously they're doing something legally. I mean, either nobody's brought a suit or nobody has has had the guts to do it yet, or there's some technicality that allows them to do this. But I mean, it's pretty brazen. I mean, they're open about this.
Right.
So I mean, and are people making contributions to Education Minnesota, or is this all union dues?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's all union dues.
It can't be all union dues. But I mean, man, that's what you and I could do with an arsenal of $2 million, Jay. Let me tell you something. We could do way more than Education Minnesota does with their $2 million. You know what I'm saying? We could just do way more than that. But yes, this 33 people that are on this political action committee. They pay dues to be on it.
Yeah.
They have like a district map or something like that. They promote and strive for improvement to public schools. They elect candidates who will support the missions of Education Minnesota. Well, there it is. Increase political action and voter participation of Education Minnesota members. So this is getting people to register to vote, getting them to the polls, making sure you know who they vote for, vouching for people who, will vote a certain way. I mean, this is all, all being done with tremendous unintended consequences. And they have taken stances on other issues like immigration. They want open borders because, of course, every kid is a dollar sign. They took stances against voter ID. They took stances against heterosexual marriage. Yeah. I mean, their influence can be felt everywhere. And, they in some ways are the biggest lobbying group in this state. I mean, obviously the Alliance for Better Minnesota, obviously the Native Americans, and so on and so forth are large. But, I mean, so much of our budget in the state is spent on K through 12. I mean, it is almost half, if I remember right.
Yes.
Almost half So it's a lot of dough at stake. Not to mention all the local levies, local property taxes, school board elections. You know, I mean, because their local affiliates are endorsing, putting people in office they want.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, they spend money on flyers, and they mail things out, and they canvass neighborhoods.
Remember, they donate to the candidate the legal limit,
right,
and then do a whole bunch of other stuff on the side. You know, and of course the candidate don't know about it. You know, of course they don't. Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah,
the old know nothing party. I know nothing about what's going on. So, you know, I mean, just a huge 800-pound gorilla. And if you want to make any changes to your local school, and in some cases, the school boards are limited on what they can and can't do. You know, they don't always have, you know, it is true that the state and federal governments have come in and taken away some of their choices. But, I mean, if you want to make minute change, they stick their nose in anything education related, anything. And, I mean, like I said, I mean, I've lost a lot of respect for what unions used to represent and used to be when I see things like this, and I see Education Minnesota, what they say and how they push, and then enemies list. I mean, an enemies list is just, you know, totally ridiculous. I mean, I'd like to know who came up with that. You know, singling out individuals and you know, spreading propaganda about them. I don't see how that furthers anybody's ability to go out and get a job and be a successful adult.
Right.
So there's my rant.
Quite a rant it was.
So, I mean, we're Community Solutions, Jay. Okay. What do we do? What do we do to slowly work against this here and work with people if we have to? I mean,
right.
So it's not, you know, we're all about solutions here. I mean, how do we combat this?
Well, you know, I think that there needs to be a separation. You cannot have a group like this with this kind of power and this kind of money and let them have both the lobbying power that they have and the power over their employees. I mean, you have a lot of teachers, that they're liberal and they probably are okay with whatever the union decides to do. But you have a lot of conservative teachers as well who, you know, they're forced through their dues to pay for a lot of the stuff that they don't like, the lobbying for policies that they don't like. I mean, this whole transgender bathroom thing, where do you think that's coming from? You know, and that the union's able to do the lobbying up at St. Paul in order to get some of that stuff through.
Why are they in favor of it? I mean,
who knows?
What does that have to do with education? I mean, what
to make every kid feel accepted?
What kid?
Exactly.
Who in elementary school is a transgender? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know any. Do you?
No.
So, I mean, what is it with? I mean, look, I can understand at a young age how somebody could be confused. I could understand at a young age that somebody could be insecure about themselves, their looks or their weight or whatever. Hell, adults can be.
Yeah.
So it can be a tough time. I can understand that. But that's where you need, to go talk to your minister or talk to your parents or, you know what I mean? Not to use a different bathroom than everybody else. I mean, I'm lost on how that has become an issue in schools. I mean, I'm sort of scratching my head about it.
Right.
Or are they just sticking their nose in it, generally speaking? I mean, it could be that too. But, I think you have a point, though, that people who disagree within the unions have to speak up.
Yes.
And I think that they're being intimidated. I think they're being kowtowed. I think they're being... Because, I'll tell you what. I don't know if... There was a time in my life I thought I could become a teacher, and I always thought about myself being one. I'm so glad I'm not.
Uh-huh.
I listen to your experiences in the short time you were a teacher.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
It's a hard gig.
Forget the politics of it. Yeah. But, there's no way I could do it today. There's no way I could. So, They talk about retaining people and getting new people, and like you said, the atmosphere, the backing the teachers up, the discipline in the school. I mean, how important is all of that in backing and retaining? Of course, you see nothing in their agenda about that.
Right.
So. But also, how do we do it? Here's another thing: how we do it. We got to have the guts to run for school board. We've got to have the guts to stand up to levies and question them. I'm not saying vote against everyone. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you got to put the burden on the schools. Mm-hmm. You got to vote for people who are independent, not endorsed by the unions.
Yeah.
I mean, if the board represents the union and the union represents the union, then who represents you?
Right.
Nobody.
And it's going to take a culture change. And you bring up a great point, because why is a teacher that represents unions, endorsing and picking out the teachers' bosses?
Yeah. Who approves their contracts?
Yeah, exactly. And it's
what other form can you possibly do that?
None.
Yeah, what other section of society can the employees pick their bosses?
Right.
I mean, it's just and the contracts are almost always approved. I mean, it's very rare that they're not, almost never.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is a quid pro quo, and it is disturbing.
Yes.
So I mean, again, we didn't even scratch the surface here.
Yeah.
Of where we could go. But you need to be aware of what they're pushing. It affects your kid. I'm telling you it does. It affects your district. Mm-hmm. It affects your state rep. It affects people you hire, people you work with. There's a residual effect all through society about it. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah.
Just another. This is almost just like another side group that we always talk about on the show. We always discuss these side groups and what they're doing, and pretty soon they'll be working with global warming groups and with people like that.
Yeah.
Anti-coal mining or something like that they'll be working with. And, and what your student is taught, I think, is influenced by these people a lot as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, we already know that they, don't teach certain things instead of giving a full worldview of something, like teaching evolution and creationism. They just teach evolution. And so it's a very skewed system, and they don't like anybody else, coming along and destroying things a little bit.
And it's funny, a lot of those things are mandated, yet they've fought for a lot of the mandates, which is another strange thing. They oppose the mandates that they fought for. So I find that really interesting as well. That they're, we want early education. Oh, well, now we're complaining that there's a mandate. Well, you asked for the mandate, so why are you now that's not fully funded, right? It's not fully funded now.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, watch what they're saying. Follow them on Twitter. The things they tweet and retweet.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I know.
Just go there. I don't even want to get into it. Just go and look. I don't know who's running their Twitter, but, obviously it's got to be somebody powerful to speak for everybody and to have that power to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got access to like really good, really deep networking tools as well.
Yes.
For some reason, conservatives can't put together a voting list of one neighborhood.
Yeah,
but these,
no, they just look at the phone book.
Yeah, and we're supposed to, as conservatives, we're supposed to be able to work harder than them and brainstorm and come up with ideas. And they took amazing pictures, when you take a look at the overall picture of education in the state and just how far off base we are. You take this picture of a whole child and you think about somebody who's graduating with a full understanding of math and science and reading, and they're ready for that next stage of their life, but they're coming out learning how to be whiners.
Yeah.
They're coming out learning that it's okay if I want to be a golden unicorn today. That's what I'm going to be. A man can have a menstrual cycle or be pregnant.
They're social justice warriors.
Yeah, and that's what they come out of school.
Yeah,
learning.
what kid?
Ridiculous.
What kid comes up with that? That's clearly put in
Right.
their head by somebody.
So you have this amazing picture that this is what you think a student should look like coming out of school, but they look like this whole other thing, and then they come into college and they're just troublemakers. I mean, really. I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm making sweeping generalizations here, but
But they're pretty accurate.
there's a lot of that, where we're not going to let free speech happen on the campus because so and so is coming to town.
Well, they've
You
never
know, and
they've
it's-
never experienced free speech before.
No, and so because these are the things that groups like Education Minnesota are pushing, part of their agenda, when it comes to equity, when it comes to all of that stuff. I mean, they're just as complicit as anybody when it comes to the output that our students have.
Yeah, and I mean, just think. I mean, like Dr. Phil says, the job of a parent, and I would say a teacher in the school, is to prepare a kid for the next step in life.
Yes.
You prepare that child. No, I won't do Dr. Phil, okay? For the next step in life. And how many kids come out not prepared?
A lot of them.
They get their diploma, okay, but they're not prepared. I come back to other things that you and I have talked about.
Yeah.
Managing money.
Yeah.
Investing money.
Right.
How to get a job. How to apply for a job.
Yes.
What do you do at a job interview? You know who I learned that from? My father. I remember my first job, my first real job, because I used to, when I was 15, 16, I was an umpire. I mowed lawns. I did stuff like that. When I finally got a job and I finally had an interview, I can remember my dad gave me some of the greatest advice on what to do in an interview.
Yeah.
Stuff I had never heard. He was like, you give a firm handshake.
Yeah.
You don't sit down until they say you can sit down. You call him Mr. Blah, blah, blah. You answer his, he was, my dad was a drill sergeant. So, he didn't ask my opinion. He just told me what my opinion was. But it's like, God, I'm 16 and nobody's ever told me how to do this. How do you get a job if you don't know how to get a foot in the door?
Right.
But I just worry about, like I said, not knowing how to manage money. I feel like entrepreneurship is squelched as well. I think schools teach you how to get a job. They don't teach you how to attack life yourself. It's like, here's what you should do. You should get a job at XYZ company, and that's where you end up for 36 years.
Well, that's the way it used to be. It's like, your educated people went to college and became doctors and lawyers and whatever, and your uneducated people that maybe dropped out or they graduated from high school and that's about as far as they went. They went into trades, they went into mining, they went into
the army.
And they stayed there. Or, even with your white collar people, they usually ended up getting a job and they would stay with that company for their entire lives.
Yes.
And that's just not the case anymore.
No, totally not. So, but how does a public entity adjust to the changes in look at the job market now, Jay. Where are the shortages? We've talked about this. It's in the trades.
Yeah.
That's where you can go without your student loans and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, what do? They push the 4-year college. They push and push and push that. And it's sort of like, okay, well, come on here. And again, but those soccer moms, they love that career path.
Oh, yeah.
You bring up career path, they need a cold towel, because that just drives them nuts.
Yes.
So, it's just, I just think at some point education is going to collapse under its own weight. I just hope I'm alive to see it.
Yeah.
It has to.
I'm optimistic that we can fix it before that happens. Maybe.
Well, Jay, then you're a fatalist, okay? Because that just ain't happening.
Yeah,
I know ain't a word.
But And this is where, we get into a little bit of what we do. We've got people out there across the state who are sitting on their hands and they're not ready to get in the game. And we've seen it where if just 2% of people that were conservative or voted conservative got on an advisory commission, ran for an office and got in, that we would have a majority, across most of the state. But instead we don't, and we allow the union to pick who they want to push both an agenda policy-wise, and to push their financial agenda, and to push, all of the stuff that we fight against every day. And we wonder why we're not able to
reach the minds of young people first off.
Right. First off that. And second of all, make any headway, and it's because we've got people that aren't getting involved. They've got kids in the school, or they've had kids in the school, and they know that they could make a difference if they just put in a little bit extra time.
I don't have kids at all and I'm involved.
Yeah.
No. That's our plea, as it is every week, but Education Minnesota. Your enemies list, don't forget, Community Solutions. Wouldn't it be something if your name and my name was down there tomorrow?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe
We had an email, I was going to say Tom Dewar, but he ain't there anymore. 'Cause he's from Robbinsdale.
Yes, he is.
I mean, maybe I could email, what's her name? I don't know what's his name? I don't know who's in charge of it. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Whatever, Jane Jetson. And just send that stuff. Say, hey, what about us?
Yeah.
Don't leave us out. I mean, us and when we make, we're going to make it big, Jay, when we're on their enemies list and the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's when we've made it big.
Well,
totally made it big.
You got to have goals.
I mean, we're Christians. That's one strike against us.
Yeah.
Okay. We're conservatives. That's 2 strikes against us. So, I mean, right
We're
there.
White, there's 3.
Oh, there's more. But, I mean,
Male, there's 4.
That's right. We're one of the 2 genders, not one of the 26.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my goodness. We're straight. We're guys.
We're
We're
hitting
white.
all the check boxes.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, neither one of us shaved today. I mean, there's a lot of things they can go after. So.
There is that, yeah.
Actually, you notice I don't have any gray hair on my face right
Yeah.
now. I couldn't take food hanging from my face, and I don't like being clean shaven, but I cannot trim it. It's never. It's like a bonsai tree. I cannot get it right. So it ends up like 3-4 times a year. I just end up getting rid of it completely. I can't stand trying to clip it. It's never right. It's worse than Mr. Miyagi with his bonsai tree.
Bonsai.
Or that one episode of Saved by the Bell where Mr. Belding had a bonsai tree.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, of course you don't.
I didn't watch that
Yeah,
show.
you were 43 years old back then.
What?
I mean, here's the thing.
My word.
Anyhow, Jay,
Wow.
we're way over time here as always. Wrap it up with our final plea that we give to everybody out there. You know what to say. You know what to do. But if you don't, we're going to remind you again. And Billy
all we
Joel,
can do.
get to know the song.
Yeah.
Come on. How'd you not get that one, Jay?
I don't know. We're here week in and week out, bringing you more information, teaching you how deep the depravity runs in this state. That we have people that just can't seem to leave their hands off of the levers of power. You have people that want power and people that don't want power. The thing is, when you don't want power, you often don't want to have the levers of power either. But those are the people that need to have the levers of power because they're not going to exercise that power. They're going to let the people do what they need to do. Instead, we've given way for these people that want to have the levers of power to have that access, and we are in a jam. We're in a huge mess. The only thing that you can do is decide to step up and become a part of this coalition we're building. That we're going to have 20,000 people across the state in local level appointed and elected seats. And we're going to see things finally change. So if that sounds interesting to you, you want to make some headway, come talk to us.
And even if it doesn't sound interesting, come and talk to us anyway.
Absolutely. And you can start that by giving us an email at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. And we're more than happy to lend you a hand and see what we can do, because we're serious about wanting to flip all this stuff in this state. Now, we talk about cities a lot, but we've been talking about a lot more school stuff, and I think that that's something we got to pay a lot more attention to as we roll into this election season. And you want to have success. You want to see things change. You don't want to sit and shake your fist every time you pick up the local newspaper. Then get a hold of us, because that's where things are going to change. So we thank you, and without you, we can't do this. But we've got to press forward. We've got to consider what we need to do to win. So with that, we're going to bid you adieu for another week. Give you something to chew on, and we're going to give you to-dos. Go out there and figure this stuff out. All right? Because we love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work.
If I get too caught